Retro Road Test, Ford Cortina vs Talbot Solara. Rate this. When it comes to classic cars from the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Ford Cortina and the Talbot Solara stand out as quintessential examples of the era's family sedans. Both cars were aimed squarely at the middle-class family market, offering a blend of practicality, comfort, and performance. Despite sharing a similar market segment, these two cars have distinct characteristics and strengths. In this road test, we'll take a deep dive into the driving experience, design, performance, and practicality of the Ford Cortina and the Talbot Solara to see how they compare. Design and styling. Ford Cortina. The Ford Cortina was a household name by the time the late 1970s rolled around. The Mk4 and Mkv versions of the Cortina, which were the focus of this era, continued the evolution of the car's design. The Cortina's styling was characterized by its straightforward, boxy shape, which gave it a no-nonsense, practical look. The design was conservative but not unattractive, with clean lines, a prominent front grille, and squared-off headlights. The overall appearance of the Cortina was one of understated confidence, which appealed to a broad range of buyers. Inside, the Cortina offered a simple yet functional dashboard layout, with clear instrumentation and easy-to-reach controls. The materials used were durable, if not particularly luxurious, and the seats provided adequate comfort for long journeys. The overall cabin design was spacious and practical, with plenty of room for a family of 4 or 5. Talbot Solara. The Talbot Solara, introduced in 1980, was a derivative of the Talbot Alpine hatchback. The Solara was essentially a saloon version of the Alpine, and this relationship was evident in its design. The Solara had a more modern and slightly more rounded appearance compared to the Cortina, with a sloping front end and a more aerodynamic shape. The design was a bit more contemporary, which helped it stand out in a market crowded with boxy sedans. Inside, the Solara featured a more modern dashboard design, with a wraparound style that put all the controls within easy reach of the driver. The materials used in the cabin were of reasonable quality, though still more functional than luxurious. The seating was comfortable, with a good driving position and ample space for passengers in both the front and rear seats. Verdict: design and styling. While the Cortina's design is timeless and conservative, the Solara's more modern styling gives it a slight edge in this category. The Solara's interior also feels a bit more contemporary, with a driver-focused dashboard layout that was ahead of its time. However, the Cortina's simplicity and classic appeal cannot be overlooked, making this a close call. Performance and handling. Ford Cortina. The Ford Cortina was offered with a range of engines, from the humble 1.3-liter Kent engine to the more powerful 2.3-liter V6. The most popular engine choice, however, was the 1.6-liter Pinto engine, which offered a good balance of performance and economy. The 1.6-liter engine produced around 73 horsepower, which was adequate for the car's size and weight. It could propel the Cortina from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 13 seconds, which was respectable for a family car of the era. On the road, the Cortina had a predictable and stable handling characteristic. The steering was light and reasonably precise, though it could feel a bit vague at times. The suspension was tuned for comfort, which meant the Cortina could soak up bumps and rough roads with ease. However, this also resulted in some body roll when cornering, which limited its dynamic abilities. Overall, the Cortina was more at home on long motorway journeys than on twisty back roads. Talbot Solara. The Talbot Solara was offered with a range of engines as well, the most popular being the 1.6-liter engine, which produced around 85 horsepower. This gave the Solara a slight performance edge over the Cortina, with a 0 to 60 miles per hour time of around 12 seconds. The Solara also benefited from front-wheel drive, which gave it better traction in poor weather conditions. On the road, the Solara offered a more modern driving experience compared to the Cortina. The steering was more direct, and the front-wheel drive layout made the car feel more planted in corners. The suspension was also slightly firmer, which helped reduce body roll and improved handling. However, this came at the cost of ride comfort, as the Solara could feel a bit harsher over rough roads. Verdict: performance and handling. In terms of performance, the Talbot Solara has a slight edge over the Ford Cortina, thanks to its more powerful engine and better handling characteristics. The front-wheel drive layout of the Solara also gives it an advantage in terms of traction and stability. However, the Cortina's smoother ride and relaxed handling make it a better choice for those who prioritize comfort over sporty driving dynamics. Practicality and comfort. Ford Cortina. The Ford Cortina was designed with practicality in mind, and it shows in the car's overall layout and design. The boot space was generous for the time, with a capacity of around 13 cubic feet, which was more than enough for a family's luggage. The rear seats could also be folded down to create additional cargo space if needed. Inside, the Cortina offered a spacious cabin with plenty of legroom and headroom for both front and rear passengers. The seats were comfortable and supportive, making long journeys a breeze. The large windows provided excellent visibility, which was a major plus for a family car. The Cortina was also known for its ease of maintenance, with parts readily available and relatively inexpensive to replace. Talbot Solara. The Talbot Solara also offered a practical and spacious interior, though it was slightly smaller than the Cortina. The boot space was comparable to the Cortina's, with around 12.5 cubic feet of cargo capacity. The rear seats could also be folded down to increase storage space, making the Solara a versatile family car. The interior of the Solara was designed with comfort in mind, with well-padded seats and a driving position that could be adjusted to suit a wide range of drivers. The dashboard layout was more modern than the Cortina's, with all controls easily accessible. However, the sloping roofline of the Solara meant that rear headroom was slightly compromised compared to the Cortina. Verdict: practicality and comfort. Both the Ford Cortina and the Talbot Solara offer a high level of practicality and comfort for family use. The Cortina has a slight edge in terms of interior space and comfort, with more rear headroom and a smoother ride. However, the Solara's more modern interior design and slightly better handling make it a close competitor. Ultimately, the choice between the two will come down to personal preference. Reliability and maintenance. Ford Cortina. The Ford Cortina earned a reputation for reliability and ease of maintenance, which was one of the reasons for its popularity. The engines were known for their durability, and the mechanical components were relatively simple, making repairs straightforward and inexpensive. Parts were widely available, both from Ford and from aftermarket suppliers, which meant that keeping a Cortina on the road was a relatively hassle-free experience. However, like many cars of the era, the Cortina was not immune to rust, particularly in the sills, wheel arches, and floor pans. Regular maintenance and rust-proofing were essential to keep a Cortina in good condition, and many examples have succumbed to the dreaded tin worm over the years. Talbot Solara. The Talbot Solara, on the other hand, had a more mixed reputation when it came to reliability. While the engines were generally robust, the car suffered from a number of electrical and build quality issues, particularly in its early years. The front-wheel drive layout also made some maintenance tasks more complicated compared to the rear-wheel drive Cortina. Parts availability for the Solara was not as good as the Cortina, especially after the Talbot brand was discontinued in the mid-1980s. This has made maintaining a Solara more challenging over the years, with some owners having to resort to sourcing parts from scrapyards or even fabricating their own. Verdict: reliability and maintenance. In terms of reliability and ease of maintenance, the Ford Cortina has a clear advantage over the Talbot Solara. The Cortina's reputation for durability, coupled with the availability of parts, makes it a more practical choice for those who want a classic car that can be easily maintained. The Solara, while not necessarily unreliable, is more challenging to keep on the road due to its relative rarity and parts scarcity. Fuel economy and running costs. Ford Cortina. Fuel economy was an important consideration for family car buyers in the late 1970s and early 1980s, and the Ford Cortina delivered respectable figures for the time. The 1.6-liter Pinto engine offered an average fuel economy of around 25 to 30 miles per gallon, mpg, depending on driving conditions and driving style. The larger 2.0-liter and 2.3-liter engines were thirstier, with fuel economy dropping to around 20 to 25 mpg. Running costs for the Cortina were relatively low, thanks to its simple mechanical layout and the availability of affordable parts. Insurance premiums were also reasonable, making the Cortina an economical choice for family buyers. Talbot Solara. The Talbot Solara offered similar fuel economy figures to the Cortina, with the 1.6-liter engine averaging around 27 to 32 mpg. The lighter weight of the Solara and its more modern engine design contributed to slightly better fuel efficiency in real-world driving conditions. Running costs for the Solara were somewhat higher than the Cortina, particularly when it came to repairs and maintenance. The relative rarity of the car and the scarcity of parts meant that repairs could be more expensive, and finding a mechanic familiar with the car could also be a challenge. Verdict: fuel economy and running costs. In terms of fuel economy, the Talbot Solara has a slight edge over the Ford Cortina, thanks to its more modern engine design. However, the Cortina's lower running costs and ease of maintenance make it a more economical choice overall. For those who prioritize fuel efficiency, the Solara might be the better option, but for those who value low running costs, the Cortina comes out on top. Driving experience. Ford Cortina. The driving experience in the Ford Cortina is best described as relaxed and comfortable. The car's suspension setup, while soft, is well suited to long motorway journeys, where it soaks up bumps and imperfections with ease. The steering, though not particularly sharp, is light and makes maneuvering the car in tight spaces relatively easy. The Cortina's brakes are adequate for the car's performance, though they can feel a bit spongy under hard braking. The gear shift is smooth, and the clutch is light, making the Cortina an easy car to drive, even in city traffic. Talbot Solara. The Talbot Solara offers a more engaging driving experience compared to the Cortina. The front-wheel drive layout gives the car better traction, particularly in wet or slippery conditions. The steering is more direct and offers better feedback, making the Solara feel more agile and responsive on twisty roads. The suspension is firmer than the Cortina's, which improves handling but comes at the cost of ride comfort. The brakes are also more responsive, providing better stopping power in emergency situations. The gear shift is precise, though it can feel a bit notchy at times. Verdict: driving experience. In terms of driving experience, the Talbot Solara offers a more engaging and responsive drive compared to the Ford Cortina. The front-wheel drive layout, sharper steering, and better brakes make the Solara more fun to drive, particularly on twisty roads. However, the Cortina's smoother ride and more relaxed driving characteristics make it a better choice for long motorway journeys and those who prioritize comfort over sportiness. Conclusion: the Ford Cortina and the Talbot Solara are both iconic cars from an era when the family sedan was the backbone of the automotive market. Each car has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the choice between them ultimately depends on what you value most in a classic car. Ford Cortina. Pros: classic, timeless design. Spacious and comfortable interior. Reliable and easy to maintain. Low running costs. Cons: conservative styling. Less engaging driving experience. Prone to rust. Talbot Solara. Pros: more modern and stylish design. Engaging driving experience. Better handling and traction. Slightly better fuel economy. Cons: higher maintenance costs. Scarcity of parts. Less interior space and comfort. If you're looking for a reliable and easy to maintain classic car with a relaxed driving experience, the Ford Cortina is the better choice. Its timeless design, spacious interior, and low running costs make it an ideal option for those who want a classic car that can still serve as a practical daily driver. On the other hand, if you prefer a more engaging driving experience and a more modern design, the Talbot Solara offers a compelling alternative. While it may be more challenging to maintain, the Solara's better handling, sharper styling, and slight fuel economy advantage make it a rewarding choice for those who enjoy driving and don't mind the extra effort required to keep it on the road. In the end, both the Ford Cortina and the Talbot Solara are worthy contenders in the classic car market, each offering a unique blend of qualities that appeal to different types of enthusiasts. Whether you choose the classic charm of the Cortina or the more contemporary appeal of the Solara, you're sure to enjoy the experience of owning and driving a piece of automotive history.